What a way to start your Monday with great music and all the positivity that is on offer. This is Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station. It's 32 minutes past 7 a.m. Ayokunmi Kikiriakon right here. It's time to get into the papers and take a look at the headlines, the stories making the rounds, analysis, and your contributions as well. This is Freshly Pressed. We're back again to take a look at what's been going on across the dailies in Nigeria. It is an interactive session, as always. That hasn't changed. So that just means you get to share your thoughts with us. And we always look forward to hearing your perspectives, getting your messages in as well. So please share those thoughts with us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. 0809 981. That is the WhatsApp number. Also on YouTube, we're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And joining me this morning to take a look at the stories, Mr. C is on the show this morning. AB should join us soon enough. But at the moment, Mr. C, good morning to you. Great to have you on Freshly Pressed.
Good morning, Nayo. Good morning, Lagos.
Alrighty. I hope you had a great weekend and we're looking to make it a money-making Monday and a great start of the week of all of the positive vibes that we have. We'll be starting this morning on a, well, not so positive note. We're heading into the vanguard. I mean, unfortunately, these are the things that we have to deal with every single day. Now, Irish youths in, if I look, in the also local government area of Ondo State. I really hope I got that correctly. Apologies if I did not. I have set a police station ablaze following the alleged death of a young man in police custody. Now, according to a source in the town, the victim was allegedly tortured to death after being arrested, prompting his colleagues to invade the police station and to burn it down. Mr. C, this is not the first time we've heard of something like this happening, an altercation, and a police station is burnt down or public property destroyed. Now, this has happened in Ondo State, and these are things that we need to speak to, really.
Yes, Ayo, these are things we need to speak to. Now, it's very sad that a Nigerian has lost his life in questionable circumstances, and it is regrettable that the people didn't wait for an autopsy to be done before giving vent to their frustrations and anger. Now, I must state very clearly that Nigeria is not the only place where people's frustrations spill over into violence. Cast your mind back to the 1992 LA riots, where policemen unlawfully attacked a black man called Rodney King. The matter went for trial, and in some very strange and perverse judgment, the police officers were not found guilty, and then the whole city erupted in flames and violence, arson, chaos, and disorder. Now, here, the story we get is that from the police is that some people were fighting on the streets. They got prompt notice, promptly arrived there, made some arrests. Then an individual was brought to the station by another individual. And according to the police, he was rushed to the hospital where he gave up the ghost. And our thoughts go out to his family at this time. Now, we don't know what happened, what led to his condition, and what led to his eventual and sad demise. However, we must condemn in its entirety the burning down of the police station, even if it was only part of it. Now, it is clear, it's crystal clear to every Nigerian that not every policeman is a saint. Not every policeman does what he should do properly. If they're not begging for money, they're trying to extort money, they're trying to intimidate you. And now, this is not saying they're not good policemen. They are good policemen.
Definitely.
But the question is, do the good policemen outnumber the rogue ones? It's all up in the air. Two, the public perception of policemen is at an all-time low. And yes, you will find some listeners who would disagree. And my question to them would be, if you had a child or a sibling who comes to you and tells you that I found the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, and the person is a serving police officer in the Nigeria police force, would you be happy for such a person? Anyway, I digress. Back to the story. Now that that police station has been partially or completely destroyed, Remember, it was put up there to provide security and services to that entire location.
Right.
Now, the anger and frustrations of a select few have led to this partial or complete destruction. And until that station is restored, the ability of the police to provide security in that location will be effectively hindered. Now, we understand, according to the police, they believe it is the father of the deceased person that led thugs to the station. Now, two things must happen. They must investigate the circumstances leading to the death of the deceased individual. That they must investigate the circumstances that led to the destruction of the police station. Now, the question is, how many people came to burn down the police station? The policemen who should normally be on duty armed with service weapons, where was they? Why didn't they fire tear gas as they're wont to do when there are peaceful demonstrations all over the country? So there are many questions that need to be answered. The question is, will we get answers? But no, sadly, we don't know. But in summary, do not burn down any government property. Yes, some government and public officials behave as if they are truly unfortunate. They refuse to respect the laws of the land, but that is not enough justification or sufficient justification to destroy public property, given the fact that the Nigerian police force is not even well funded in the first place. So it's a big mystery where they're going to find the money to restore that police station. But we'll be watching this story and we'll update the listeners with further updates.
Most definitely, as Mr. C has said, it is not in our best interest to destroy public property. I mean, we are infrastructurally challenged already, and destroying the little that we have doesn't help anyone. In fact, it's counterproductive. Some might say, what good are they doing for us? But it's not a great way to actually think. So let us try to keep emotions in check. Yes, things are difficult. Yes, temperatures are high, but we should just try our best to keep things under wraps. And yeah, let's just keep things moving. Hopefully, that particular community will not be hamstrung by this particular incident. All right, Mr. C, let's jump into the premium times and talk about some security matters here. Now, 2 weeks after a failed reconciliation move between Jamato al-Is-Suna, it's a long name, it's shortened to JAS. I'm not going to bite my tongue this morning. Popularly known as Boko Haram, and its breakaway faction, the Islamic State West Africa Province, ISWAP. Now, both groups have resumed fighting in the Abadam local government area of Borno State. Now, this is not the first time the Bakura Duru-led faction of Boko Haram and ISWAP engaged in such violent fighting on the islands of the Lake Chad Basin. Now, the recent clash, according to Zagazola Makama, a counter-insurgency expert in the Northeast, occurred on 14th of February around ISWAP camps in Tumbum, Guinea and Tumbum Ali as well. Now we're seeing, on one hand, we're seeing factions within these terrorist organizations, and then you're having a breakaway faction fighting with the mother faction, as it were. Now, Mr. C, you know what they say, when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffered. On one hand, this is ridiculous, but what is going on in Borno State, looking at these two factions, it is utterly ridiculous when you think about it.
So I agree, Aya. So let's go back down memory lane for the benefit of listeners. Now, Jamatu Ali Sunnah Lidawati Wal Jihad, JS, is the official name for the terror group we know as Boko Haram. Now, Boko Haram started circa 2008 or 2009. Now, in 2015, Abubakar Shekau, who took over the leadership of Boko Haram from the original founder who was unlawfully killed by rogue security agents in Nigeria, pledged his allegiance to the Islamic State of West Africa Province. However, due to ideological differences with the son of the original founder of Boko Haram, he pulled away with his splinter force, and ever since they've been at loggerheads and they've been attacking themselves over the years. Now, over the same period of years, they've tried to reach some sort of compromise, but it always fails due to ideological differences. Now, when Shekau took his life in 2021, as a result of sustained ISWAP attacks on him, it was believed that the two terror groups would then be able to come to some form of lasting peace. However, that has not happened. Now, in all of this, what does this portend for Nigeria? Now, it portends grave difficulties ahead for people who live in areas close to these guys or areas where they are in control, because each group will want to impose its sovereignty over the areas, will want to collect taxes, will want to exercise all form of authority and control, and the other group
Right.
will not. Every time there's an attack, when two elephants fight, the grass always suffers. And sadly, these people may not get any breather or respite. Now, it will interest a lot of listeners to know that in the Northeastern Corridor, there are a good number of local governments that are under the effective control of non-state actors. We have the recognized state actors as per the Nigerian constitution, but they don't exercise any real authority. So the bigger question here is for the Nigerian security forces, as civilians like you and I are reading this story, what are they doing? Have they put in place any plan to deal with the fallout of this? Are they looking to capitalize on the fact that the two terror groups are seeking to weaken each other's position and then swoop in to decimate both of them
Exactly.
conclusively? Now, if you're looking for a guide on how to deal with a declared enemy, just look at the way Israel dealt with Hamas. There's politics, arguments over whether Israel was right or wrong. That's not what I brought that example up for. You've identified an enemy and you go all out to decimate the enemy. In Nigeria, we've been labeling all these terror groups as enemies of the state. However, we cannot reconcile our declarations with the actions on the ground. So it then begs the question, what then is the fate of the ordinary Nigerian there? There's another story we should take, and it points to the fact that hundreds of thousands of Nigerians, if not millions, have fled the country partly due to insecurity. And the longer these terror groups are allowed to exist and propagate the nonsense they're on about and their violence, the longer it will take Nigeria to recover from decades of insurgency of terrorism. And this is a clarion call to the Nigerian security forces, especially National Security Advisor. Leave the people who accuse you of doing A, B, or C. Focus on your core job description. Secure the country.
I'm actually glad you alluded to the National Security Advisor, who seems to be, should I say, focused on other issues that really are not of the utmost importance right now. But anyways, you mentioned, talk about the story concerning Nigerians, who are leaving the country in droves. And we're going to take that story right now, heading into the Daily Post, and where it says the recent disclosure by the federal government that over 400,000 Nigerian refugees currently reside in Chad, Niger, and Cameroon is a sad reality of what Nigeria has become. Now, the report has sparked some outrage among Nigerians who have attributed the development to poor and ineffective leadership. Now, the Federal Commissioner of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons, Tijani Ahmed, made the disturbing disclosure in Abuja last week during a technical work group meeting. 400,000 Nigerians across 3 African countries. I mean, not to be disparaging or to look down on anyone, but I don't think anyone would, come out to willingly say, "Oh, I'm moving to Chad, I'm moving to Niger, or I'm moving to Cameroon." No offense to these countries in the grand scheme of things, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I think that's the way this is probably playing out. Mr. C, what's your perspective on this one?
Okay, thank you, Ayo. So my perspective is a bit interesting. So first of all, it's the Federal Commissioner for the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons that gave this revelation or figure of 400,000 people. Now, my first take is that number has been underplayed because traditionally in Nigeria, government figures, government bodies never give the accurate figure. They probably, to refer to them, they give figures that are within their record collection abilities. So this figure is possibly greater than this. Now, look at the countries: Chad, Niger, Cameroon. Now, what are the states that border these countries from the Nigerian end? And you will find that these are the states that have been racked by insurgency terrorism from the non-state terrorist groups. So we're looking at a Borno, we're looking at a Yobe, we're looking at probably a Kebbi, a Sokoto, probably even down to Niger State. No, Niger, no, because Niger is a north central state. But it speaks volumes of a number of things. One, the Nigerian security forces for the past 11 years have been telling us that they have Nigerian security threats under control. In fact, in 2015, in December, the Minister for Information then, Mr. Lai Mohammed, did say that Boko Haram had been overcome or technically defeated. Fast forward 10 years later, we're still hearing about a group that was technically defeated a decade ago. Now, it's also clear that not all of them migrated because of insecurity. You also have the crushing economic crisis, and
Right.
people are trying to escape to survive. Now, it will interest a number of Nigerians to know that the the African French franc, the CF, for
The
some reason I
CFA.
can't remember, CFA, is actually stronger than the Nigerian naira now, which is truly an embarrassment. So you find that some of these people migrated for economic reasons. Some decided to settle in Chad and Niger because historically they've shared close relationships. And in some of those places, what separates Nigeria from the neighboring country will probably just be a patch of grass or a wall or even a room. Now, some other people are on their way to Morocco, to Spain. They're going through that hazardous route through the Sahara Desert,
Risking
hoping
life
to
and
get.
limb.
Yes. Now, what does this tell us? The second thing this tells us is that the trumpeted light at the end of the tunnel that public officials, particularly in this administration, continue to parrot hasn't arrived. Because think about it, Ayo. If things were going on well the way they claim they are, why are people living in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to seek a better life outside? Contrast that with countries we know for a fact that are doing well. Take Switzerland, take South Korea, take Japan, take Canada, take the United States, take United Kingdom. Do you find 300,000, 400,000 of their citizens, or even China, Russia, rushing out of the country for better pastures? No. So what does this tell us finally? This migration, this forced migration is not going to stop. It's going to get worse. And it will get to a point, tensions and sentiments against Nigerians will rise. Because let's not forget, we're a lot. And some of these countries do not have the infrastructure, the space, or the capacity to receive us in our numbers. So that is why it is incumbent upon this administration and future administrations. Stop the rhetoric, just roll up your sleeves, knuckle down, and deliver the result on the hard work expected. So the security crisis is exacerbated by the economic crisis. Now, the economic crisis is also worsened by corruption, a lack of order, and a general wave of impunity sweeping the country. So this is work for this administration. On the 29th of May, year number 3 starts for this administration. And yet, I'm quite certain if you pick 10 Nigerians at random, it cannot tell you what this administration has achieved.
Right. Is it year number 3 or year number 2?
Sorry? No,
Year
we're
number
already in year number 2. Year number 2 ends on the 28th of May. 29th of May 2025, year number 3 starts, and it ends on the
Okay, year number
20th.
three starts. Okay, okay.
Starts, yes.
Now I get the clarification on that one. Alrighty. Keep your thoughts coming in on WhatsApp on 0809-444-0981. Ibilade Amber from Badagry says, why should the fight between two terror groups make the headlines? But that's not the issue. What I expect our military to do is to go in and eliminate both groups now that they are busy fighting each other. I mean, that's what Mr. C actually alluded to. That should make things a whole lot easier, thinking about the fact that both these groups have serious beef with each other. You just wonder what the intelligence units are doing in terms of, okay, let's infiltrate, let's do this, let's do that. It probably,
So,
on paper should be easier to deal with. On paper, that is.
so let me quickly respond to something he said. He's wondering why we're discussing it. Be thankful that they are not operating in Lagos, because if they were operating in Lagos, I'm very confident you wouldn't hold that perspective.
Okie doke. Let's keep things moving here. But we're still talking security now. This one is another sad one that we need to bring to the fore. Heading into the Guardian, and it says an army jet killed at least 6 civilians after mistakenly attacking them while pursuing gangs in northern Nigeria's Katsina state. Residents told AFP on Sunday. Now, it dropped a bomb on a cluster of huts on the outskirts of Zaka village in Safana district on Saturday, according to 3 residents. Now, the strike came after bandits attacked the police base in the village, killing 2 policemen and a vigilante assisting them, they added. And this is not, I mean, Mr. C, we've been here multiple times where we've had a, a mistaken airstrike or a situation where we have collateral damage. Now we have 6 civilians have been killed. It was very recently that we had a number that were killed. Was that them? I think that was late in 2024, if my memory serves me correctly. But hey, once again, we have another case of mistaken identity in quotes.
Um, it's really a sad and traumatic story. And our thoughts again go out to the families of the people who have been unlawfully and illegally killed. Now, in December 2024, a military jet killed 10 people and wounded 6 others when it attacked 2 villages while supposedly bombing positions of Lakwara terrorists. That's December 2024. In January this year, that was last month, a military airstrike killed at least 16 people in northwestern Zamfara. Now in February, 6 people have died. Now, I haven't even made reference to the incidents in 2017 and 2023. And you start to see a worrying pattern. Non-state terrorist actors attack villages or homesteads, then they leave. Then the Nigerian Air Force is mobilized. They come after they've gone, and then they're bombing innocent people. So the question is there any coordination with troops on the ground? Because if the terrorists have gone, shouldn't you abort your mission and return to base? If you don't know what direction they headed in, shouldn't you abort the mission? Why continue the mission if you cannot confirm for a fact that the terrorists you seek to attack are still within the vicinity of your operation? 2, the previous incidents, we've never gotten any final report of the investigations into those incidents. And yet again, we're visited with another incident. At what point will we get an investigation started? At what point will it be finished? And then a bigger question, the committees that oversee the Air Force, both in the House of Representatives and the Senate, surely they cannot suggest that they're not aware of all these incidents. What are they doing? What have they done? Is it a problem of proper calibration of the aircraft? What exactly is going on? And nobody is saying anything. Okay, so the jet that came is from what operation? Because there are various military operations in various theaters in the northeast, the northwest, and I dare say the north central. So this jet came from what operation? Who is in charge of that operation? Who is going to give an explanation for what has happened? Sadly, again, many questions, very few answers, if any.
Many questions, very few answers. But Mr. C, let me just get your perspective on this. Now, there's some people who would make the argument that in some of these areas, some of these non-state actors are supported by those people within those communities and so on and so forth. And then they begin to wonder what exactly can the military actually do to separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes to trying to deal with these terrorists and so on and so forth.
Okay, so Ayo, luckily the wheel, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's been invented already. You need to use human intelligence, you need to use technological intelligence. How did Israel locate Hamas bunkers that were constructed underneath civilian buildings? We're lazy in this country. I'm sorry. We need to roll up our sleeves. Our security agents need to do the hard work. It's not about collecting allowances, collecting fat salaries, staying in air-conditioned offices. You need to actually do the work. You need to infiltrate these terror groups. That is the only way you will get information. Now, the suggestion that the local people collaborate or sympathize with the terror groups, not a problem. So how is it that you're only killing the sympathizers, but the real people doing the damage, you don't touch any of them? How does that work?
Hmm, the million-dollar question. Okay, let me take some messages here. AY from Maniru says, when these terrorists are captured by the Nigerian military personnel, the government will now come up with a rehabilitation program for these supposed terrorists and release them back into the same society that they have been terrorizing. It's just a circus. That alone boggles the mind. You know, when you talk about de-radicalized terrorists, I don't think they understand how it works, or maybe they do understand how it works and they're just taking us for a ride because it's an ideology, a mindset. How do you de-radicalize people and send them back into society?
So the bigger question is the other countries, we're not the only country dealing with terror groups or terrorists.
Hmm.
Why aren't the other countries adopting this approach? Why isn't Israel trying to de-radicalize Hamas terrorists or terrorists from Hezbollah? There's a reason why they aren't doing it. We should ask questions and get answers. Because this system that we're adopting, I've never been convinced about it. How do you know that the guy has changed his ways? How? How can you conclusively determine that he has repented from his old murderous ways?
These are the questions. Like we always see, so many questions. We never get enough of the answers. And finally, here, let me squeeze this one in from Michael. Michael says the leadership structure is totally incompetent. Where you want first-class graduates enrolled in the forces, but secondary school certification is okay for leading the country. I need to jack by ASAP. Michael, please don't do that. We need to stay here and rebuild the country together. We need to hold hands and rebuild the country. Take us to nirvana at the end of the day. Please, Michael, don't go. Anyways, we need to call it a morning on the show. Thank you so much, Mr. C. In a nutshell, just give us some words of inspiration as we tackle another week as Nigerians living in Nigeria.
Okay, so thank you for having me. And as we go about our week this week, I sincerely wish that the captivity of a lot of Nigerians will be turned again, and that even as we continue to sow in tears, we will eventually reap with joy, that we should keep our heads up, keep our eyes on the goal, and push on, irrespective of what is going on around us, because at the end of the day, hard labor will be rewarded. So just keep your head up, love your brother, be loving, be charitable towards your brother, your neighbor, and let's collectively dig ourselves out of this, even though the political class doesn't really know what it's doing.
Mm. Keep your head held high. Do what it is that you do, and your reward will be on earth, not only in heaven. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. C. And thank you for all the messages. And keeping it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Don't go anywhere. The Smooth Breakfast will kick on at 8:15. We'll take a walk into the locker room and talk about all the sporting action. For those on the red side of Manchester, well, all I can say is keep your heads held high as well. things will definitely get better. Keep it tuned. Smooth 98.1.